You've probably heard these sayings 1,000 times, phrases that are meant to sound deep, that offer pseudo-wisdom, that claim to be profound, but under just the tiniest bit of scrutiny, I think that they start to fall apart. And this is not to steal your joy nor your comfort. I understand that we as humans, we love these aphorisms, these cliches, because they chunk down into bite-sized wisdom nuggets. They offer simplicity in a very chaotic world. And there's some utility to that, some benefit to that. But is there more utility and more benefit when we actually interrogate these sayings and look for the truth in them? I think so. So that's what we're going to do today. I have just 5 sayings for you. Very popular phrases that supposedly offer wisdom, but I think they actually mislead, and I think we can do better. So let's start with one that bugs me the most, and it's phrased in so many different ways. Everything happens for a reason. There are no coincidences. The universe has a plan. And those are the secular versions. Of course, religion has its own way of promoting this concept. Romans 8:28 says, God works all things together for good. In Islam, you have inshallah, if God wills it. And in Hinduism, you have that karmic justice idea. This is a very comforting notion to humans, that it's not total randomness all the time, that there's something larger going on. And again, even the non-religious person often buys into this. Like there's some universal hand pulling strings and piecing things together. It can seemingly give suffering meaning. It can again rope in chaos into some sort of order. But the simple truth of it is that randomness does exist. Earthquakes just do happen. Things like cancer or car accidents are a reality of this life. There does not have to be any kind of God or cosmic logic behind it. In fact, if there is, it's pretty damn terrifying. And we do this. We have this urge to make the natural not natural, because if these bad things are just natural, or I should say harmful things, well, again, that can also be truly terrifying. At least if you give it over to God, sometimes God might answer a prayer or two about it. But there's a moral danger in that kind of belief, religiously or secularly. It justifies injustice. Your suffering being part of a cosmic plan means you should take it. Tragedy happening to another means there's good over here. You don't want to interrupt the butterfly effect. And even at a deep level, it can lead to this idea of apathy, of inaction. The same way that thoughts and prayers do absolutely nothing, this kind of thinking prevents real help. And it's kind of a different critique if you're talking about the God version or the cosmic version. If a God version, you've got to contend with the problem of evil and suffering, which I think utterly destroys that concept, at least of the kind of gods we think of, triomni gods. And again, if cosmic, that's even less control. You can't pray to the universe. I mean, I suppose that you could, but it's going to be as futile. It's a hard recognition to not just look in the mirror at yourself, but look at the reality of the world. But the best things that have helped advance society past the horrors of the past, not that there's not still horrors going on, is not saying, I guess it's all going to work out. There must be a greater plan. There are indeed no coincidences. It's saying, no, let's try to act on this. Let's control for this. Let's lessen that. And any good student of history will see that we are the masters of our fate. My favorite example when I think about this is smallpox. What if we just kept accepting that smallpox is part of the universal order? This is, the universe or God or planet Earth getting back at us for our lack of care. It's just the world correcting for imbalance of some kind. How many more unnecessary deaths of children would we have if everyone thought like this? No. Hey, there's something I don't like. There's something harmful. Let's find a way to fix it. This magical thinking, I think, removes responsibility, and that is where I see the biggest harm. Not to mention, it's just simply not true. We have no good reason to believe that it is. And of course, many have dealt with this. Camus has been on my mind a lot lately in many videos and in conversations. This is the absurdity of life. It's something to be recognized. It is insane that we are all just here and part of this human experiment, which already gives, again, a notion that someone or something is orchestrating. No, we showed up on the scene. We're all we've got. Let's do something about it. Sometimes things just suck. A rock rolls down a hill, hits someone in the head, and they die. What's the cosmic purpose? For the dead person? For the rock? For the family suffering? I'm not saying you can't find silver linings. I'm not saying that you can't look for patterns that make things feel like they mattered, like they happened for a reason. By all means, make lemonade out of lemons. But to act like someone gave you the lemons to make that lemonade is where we start to go down the wrong path. So moving on to number 2, kind of similar, but still different. Just follow your heart. Trust your gut. Now, trusting your gut, I think, actually is decent advice, but people don't think about it this deeply when they throw this kind of thing out. I heard an amazing definition of what our gut instinct is, which is just our brain's amazing pattern recognition. So if something doesn't feel right, it's not some cosmic sense of awareness. It's not God placing the discernment of the Holy Spirit in you. It's our brain going, wait, I've seen this before. This might not be good. Based off real past experience, using data to inform future decisions. That's wonderful. But the more abstract concept of you have some mechanism inside you that will guide you towards what is always providential. No, you do not. But I understand why it sounds good. It sounds like some kind of emotional authenticity. It seems pure. How are you arguing against that? That's a beautiful little notion. Disney logic, if you will. And it resonates, right, with some kind of myth of an inner essence or a soul, which again, you don't have to believe in God to believe in, that there is somehow this more eternal part of you, this deeper thing, this carryover from a past life or a multiverse, whatever you have brought into your belief system. There's something inside you working for you past your brain. Again, we just have no good reason to believe. Now, I can already feel some people clenching up. Brandon's destroying the spiritual now, not just religion. He's taking it too far. Look at these dumb, hardline materialists. I don't know if there's more. And I love awe and the sense of transcendence. I think beauty and love and music are powerful. I don't want to rob anybody of the poetry of life, but over-indexing on these ideas will rob you of the real beauty that can be had here by making these false assertions and connections that don't exist. Your heart is not always looking out for you, metaphorically speaking. This is one thing that the Bible does get right, even though it immediately contradicts itself, that the heart is deceitful above all else. The problem is like everything, it looks for a replacement. Oh, put your faith in God. And the secular person who doesn't believe in God says, no, give it back over to your heart. Follow your heart. But hearts mislead. People follow their hearts into scams and affairs and cults. That's not good. From a neuroscience perspective, emotions, which is really all we're talking about when we talk about following your heart, are evolved responses. They're not compasses of truth. How many times have you been wrong about something? How much more evidence do you need? From a philosophical point of view, Plato warns about this against passion ruling reason. You want a perfect example of passion without reason? I recently watched the not a documentary, but the movie about Elizabeth Holmes from Theranos. That's passion without reason. That didn't go so well. And again, the romantic in me, the literature lover, the poetry lover, I think about Romeo and Juliet, all passion, no reason, dead teenagers. What about religious conversions? That's nothing but passion, no reason, all feelings, no logic. So yeah, check your heart, check your emotions, check your feelings. Maybe they're leading you in the right way, but can you get more evidence? Can you get more sources? Can you do a little discovery? The Stoics are clear about this. Don't make emotions an enemy. That's not what we're saying. It's not that they're always bad, always untrustworthy, but they are unreliable rulers. And that's such an important distinction, such a good bit of nuance. I asked this question in the last Thinking Thursday video. What if everyone lived like you did? What would happen to the world? And here I think we can do a similar thought experiment. What if everybody followed their heart? Truly, how well do you think that experiment would go? Sometimes I think blowing things up can help us see how it can go wrong even in the small, in the detail. But let's move on to number 3. What doesn't kill you makes you stronger. All I can hear is the Kelly Clarkson song, but this is so cliche. And it offers this good bit of hope, right? Oh, this thing happened to you, don't worry. It's building your character, it's toughening you up, it's providing experience for the future. And though those things can be true, they're not always true. And this kind of a framing I do think is dangerous. By the way, this is me going directly against Nietzsche. This comes from Twilight of the Idols. This suggesting that suffering always leads to resilience. It can, and maybe that's the encouragement from someone who's saying it like Nietzsche is, hey, if you're going to go through this thing anyways, you might as well find a way to make it useful. You might as well put it to work for you. Again, make that lemonade. But this is an actual mantra or belief. Ugh, I do not like it. Trauma is real and it can weaken us. Think PTSD, think depression, think anxiety. These things are crippling. And again, I want to be clear, it can make you stronger. There's 1,000 variables, one being resources like knowledge or therapy, community, etc., that are going to dictate to what degree suffering helps or hurts us. Think about the veteran coming back from war. Yes, some come back stronger and with purpose, and some come back broken completely. When disease strikes, some people's immune system builds them up stronger. They're more resilient. Others suffer long-term disabilities. It's just not a fact of life that what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. What matters is, yes, how we respond and how we get support. And those are the details that should be mantras, not to just assume that because something bad happened to you, you will become better. That's asinine. Just to throw more examples at you, think about weightlifting. Yeah, you break the muscle down and it can grow back stronger if you do the right things. You have the nutrition, you have the rest, you did the right amount of reps, you handled the right amount of weight. But too much stress, too much weight, too much pushing, not enough rest, not enough nutrition does what? It breaks it. You become injured. You actually become weaker. There's balance that needs to be understood, and there's the necessary tools for recovery that need to be understood instead of just this blind, everything works out. It's kind of like number one. And an interesting thought experiment here is, especially as a parent, and this is often something that's thrown out when we critique the triomny God for the problems of suffering. Someone will say, okay, well, you as a parent, would you wish bad things for your kids so that they can grow stronger? It's kind of a loaded question, though. Do I wish just ultimate trauma dumped on my kids, hoping that they can fight for their life through it and maybe come out the other side? No. Do I wish for a little bit of adversity sometimes for them to overcome and gain strength and perspective? Yes, but we don't need to manufacture those things. The world is already going to do that. We need to prepare them with love and guidance and real tools and real support so that we can make the best of what will happen in this life that is not being controlled by any kind of a puppet master or any kind of universe with a plan. Again, when you put some of these ideas together, they get even worse in that direction. Oh, the universe has a plan. That plan includes suffering. That suffering will always make you stronger. Just follow your heart. Whoa, we're getting into very dangerous territory. So again, I'm not trying to remove all of it. I'm trying to add the nuance to it so that things can be useful, so that we can have the right perspectives. I just see this abused too much. I'm not saying I'm a genius or I'm some guru of wisdom and I have it all figured out. I do not. But it is clear to see when some things do not work, and it is clear to see where people get trapped in stupid pseudo-wisdom. And so with that, let's move on to number 4. Ignorance is bliss. Now, I think I've even said this once or twice on the channel, and I try to say it in context about thoughts we have during the deconstruction that, man, it would have been so much better if I just never looked into it, if I didn't read the Bible in its entirety, if I just showed up naive to church and enjoyed the community. But I don't actually think that's better. I think it's easier. And I think that that is a huge distinction to talk about here. Ignorance being blissful is a nice concept because it feels like it can give permission to not dealing with what is hard, to not being exposed to what is difficult. It's a self-protecting measure, if you will, seemingly protecting innocence and shielding from anxiety. But there's some problems with ignorance or willful ignorance, willful blindness. You might say, okay, no one says this saying is like what one should do. No, it's usually kind of an after the fact excuse maker. But any kind of sheltering or willful blindness, ignorance, whatever term we want to call it here, affords the ability to make you an easy target for manipulation. Knowledge is power. The lack of knowledge is the lack of power, and a lack of power can be very dangerous. It's why so many, not all, churches discourage questioning, at least questioning too much. It's always kind of this little pseudo handoff like, oh no, you should definitely think about that more. Oh yeah, it's good to doubt. They don't mean it, not entirely, only within the confines of they have the answers and you need to listen to them. But otherwise, they want you not thinking. Just like political powers, especially tyrannical ones. The more ignorant you can keep the population, the easier they are to control. And no, that doesn't just mean that they're off in la-la land in some blissful state, not worrying about the affairs of the world. Oftentimes, it leads to their own downfall. That's true in the religious example and the political example. Quoting a lot of Greeks today, but Socrates says the unexamined life is not worth living. Are you even living if you are just going on autopilot, blissfully unaware of everything about yourself and the world and the people around you. If you want a simple motto, do something better like dare to know instead of burying your head in the sand. Another word for ignorance, I think, here is denial. That's what we do to keep our bliss. We say, oh man, it can't really be as bad as they're saying. I know that I've had that pain in my back for a month now, but it's probably not a big deal. Right? These kinds of denial lead to that ignorance that leads to that sense of bliss. But again, it's just momentary unawareness of the reality that has suffering attached to it. Knowledge may hurt, but it's like that pain sensor. When you touch the stove, you want it to hurt for a second so you know to pull your hand away. If it didn't hurt and you just left it there, now you have a real problem. So yeah, knowledge hurts for a minute, but ideally it empowers. It allows us to actually avoid more suffering. But let's close out with our last one. Fitting number 5, live every day like it's your last. So motivational, right? Like carpe diem. You don't know if tomorrow is promised. It's this quick little pep talk against complacency, which is great. This is the closest one to being somewhat useful, but in the way it's phrased, it's not only impossible to really do, but if one did, it would be ultimately incredibly destructive. There's parts of it that are true. Again, going back to the Stoics, we have that memento mori, remember your death, because it can give an urgency to life. You don't want the opposite either. You don't want to treat every day as if it's the most boring, apathetic thing. You're going to have a billion more. Why can't we ever find the middle? Yes, be aware that the end in general terms is near, but you might have another 20 years or 40 years or 80 years in front of you, and that's just not a viable way to actually live life like every day is your last. And maybe I'm being that guy that's taking it too literally, and it's just supposed to be about the heart of the matter, and you could make that excuse for a lot of these, but the problem is that a lot of people really do take these to heart. They really do try to live off of them, or they use them as excuses for the way that they are living. And it can be tempting. Oh my goodness, I totally understand the young person in their 20s who feels like, am I ever going to be able to have a house? The entry-level jobs are going away because of AI. What's the point of college? Maybe I should just party. What else is there to do? How I empathize. But you're probably still going to be here in 10 years. And there's probably some decisions that you can make to be as wise as possible in the meantime to set yourself up for a potential of a better outcome. Throwing your hands in the air and saying, it's all going to end someday anyways, and it could be tomorrow, so you know what? I'm going to have that extra drink. I'm going to indulge myself here. I'll just gamble this money. It'll be fun. Who knows? Maybe it'll work out. These are dangerous, dangerous concepts that seem like a good idea under this essence of really living life. In that way, it's just a hedonistic trap, justifying reckless behavior. And by the way, it's not just in your 20s that this can happen. You might see it with your midlife crisis. You might see it with people that are getting older, but still have a lot of life left. Sometimes I have to talk my dad off this ledge, or the sad stories of how many men just blow up their families in their 40s from their midlife crisis because they wanted the younger wife or the expensive sports car they couldn't afford. They up and quit their commitments. And I know I'm being a little general here, but there's just 1,000 ways that this can go wrong because it can justify, again, many kinds of behavior that shouldn't be justified. Religiously, we see kind of a weird version of this where the rest of your time here on earth doesn't matter because you have an eternity waiting for you in heaven. Don't store up for yourselves treasures on earth. We see this urgency preaching from both Jesus and Paul because they both believed the world was going to end in their generation. And that life advice is terrible. Paul's out there saying to stay single, and if you're married, act like you're single and don't invest in businesses. And Jesus is saying to sell all you have. That only works if the end of the world is coming, if tomorrow really is your last day. It's a horrific way to live. So then you have the secular person who's divorced themselves from those religious concepts, and they say, on the other hand, if there is no afterlife, and this is all we get, I don't want to waste it. I could get hit by a bus tomorrow. Where's the nuance? I'm not saying not to have a fun day every once in a while where you let loose, of course. And yes, don't procrastinate. It's equally dangerous. If you love that person, go tell them. If you can do that adventure, go do it. But rushing in or being careless or reckless under a justified concept of, I don't know if we'll be here tomorrow, will not work out when tomorrow comes and goes. What if instead we said, and this is what I should have done for all of them, I should have given you better versions, but what if we said, live every day like it matters? Bam! We get the same urgency, the same concept, but with caution. Just a little added middle ground. Live today in a way your future self will thank you for. The best of both worlds. Still planning for a longer life, but also recognizing that what we do today matters. In fact, let's see if we can do that here. Let's see if we can find the middle ground, and then we'll close out. So we've done it for this one. Let's go back to number 4, ignorance is bliss. We kind of already said it, but what if we said instead that knowledge, though painful, is powerful? Ooh, I like that. Instead of what doesn't kill you makes you stronger, what about what doesn't kill you can still wound you, but healing correctly can make you stronger? I get it's not as sexy, but it's way more true and it's way more helpful. Instead of follow your heart, can we do follow your values? Values you've already thought out ahead of time and compared and weighed and seen the truth and evidence for. Again, I'm not trying to make these sound bites actually stick. I'm just trying to give you the concept behind what might be healthier. Listen to your heart, but lead with your mind. There's a prettier one for you. And that first one, that everything happens for a reason when we know that it doesn't and life is absurd, to kind of stick with that Camus idea, we could say something like, life isn't about finding meaning, it's about making meaning. Instead of all this pseudo-wisdom that is light and bouncy, poetic, deep sounding, and even mildly comforting, what if we talked about real wisdom more? The kind that requires complexity and discomfort and nuance and attention and investigation. Maybe you just need to ask yourself, do you want comfortable lies or uncomfortable truths? It's the whole point of the channel here. So this was just a quick deeper dive into that world, and I'd love to hear what other ones you guys have or what you think of these. That's it. Thank you so much for being here. Hopefully there's a Sunday video waiting for you as I'm filming this. I don't know if I'll have that Sunday video because I'm going out of town, but either way, there will be a video in the short future, and until then, keep thinking. I wanted to personally thank my top tiers of support: my Iconoclast, Ann, Boris, Grant, GVI, Jimmy, Joe, Yes, the Kitboga, Matthew, Perry, and Shawn; my Humanist heroes: Craig, James, Jarrod, Kristi, and Matthew; my Atheist advocates: Aquitar, Caleb, Dakota, Dan, Drew, Jeff, Jeffrey, Jugs, Julie, Malcolm, Paul, Sparky, and Thomas; as well as all of my secular scholar patrons. And to everyone else who gives in any capacity, thank you so much.